today we have certainly some very powerful executives, which they don't want you to know that they're powerful. But hopefully, maybe they can help us with bringing more production back to LA and help save the environment at the same time. No pressure at all. All right, so I'm going to welcome first the president of narrative film and television at Participant Media and the executive producer on this year's Oscar-winning films Green Book, Jonathan King. Okay, here comes Jonathan. All right, and then we have Paul Baribault, who is the VP of Walt Disney Studios and is responsible for brands, marketing, strategy, production, and operations, and he's the head of Disney Nature. Come on out, Paul. And then we have Bill Gerber, who some of you may know from Gerber Pictures. He is a producer and also an Oscar nominee for A Star is Born, but he is the past EMA chair of the Executive Board of Directors. And then we have somebody that none of you know. She is the CEO of EMA, Debbie Levin. Okay, and last but not least, we have the content chief for Warner Media streaming service, president, TBS, TNT, True TV, and longtime past EMA board member Kevin Reilly.
You're here, right?
I'm here, but I mean, I'm willing to share.
Oh, this is great.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So, Kevin, you've always tried to incorporate green messaging into your programming. But you started Green Week, which you're going to explain about later, at more than one of the networks you've run, because you've run quite a few. And we know why it's so critical to include environmental messaging into popular media, but can you tell us how you've actually been able to pull it off?
How we've pulled it off. You know, I was thinking about this on the way over. I thought there was such urgency back when we first started this. If we knew what we knew now, we would have been out of our minds. Somebody said, I was in a board meeting last week. I'm on the board of the Nature Conservancy of California, which is really an incredible organization as well. And,
I'm a member.
Oh yeah, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And someone used the term radical pragmatism, which is because you can really look right now at the state of what's going on. And again, I think about it when we were doing Green Week and moving the needle on things like recycling and even awareness in our own industry that people were talking about, well, we've got to do right for the environment. And you go, well, you've got 1,000 vehicles idling out there, spewing fumes and burning gas, and you're using endangered woods and things that people hadn't even thought about before. All of that was critical, and yet here we are today in this, really rather distressing state of affairs that's going to require next level awareness, and yet a lot of people just either don't care or are sticking their heads in the sand, including our government. And so when it comes down to in our industry or in our thing, I've always thought about, well, how can you practically get at this? I think this has been the EMA's secret sauce all along, is you knew you had to come in and sneak in the side door. If you came in fire and brimstone and you said this has to be done, that you get the door shut. So how do we make people our friends? How do you make strange bedfellows? And the radical pragmatism part is you got to be willing. If you stand on principle and stomp your feet today, you're probably just not going to get anything done. You have to accept some things that it's going to take everybody on some level. It's going to take getting strange bedfellows together.
Yeah, like it's almost like little steps are better than no steps.
Yes, just get people in the conversation first rather than polarized and nothing's happening. That's been Debbie's real magic all along. And, so when it comes to, in your particular job, what can you do? The radical pragmatism also can mean that was in the context, to be honest with you, of climate change. and some people talking about we've got to reverse climate change. We're not going to reverse climate change anytime soon. That's not happening. We're going to stop extinction. You're not going to stop some extinctions. It's happening. It's going to happen. So the pragmatism is, what can we do? What can you get ahead of? Accepting that this zone is going to be warmer and species are going to move or things are going to happen. Where are they moving to? How do we actually make that place safer?
Right.
So it can mean it at the highest levels of really accepting certain things you don't want to acknowledge. And it can mean just in your own day-to-day life of what can I just do to get out there and practically move the needle. So that was a long,
That's all right. That's what we're
rambling
here for.
answer, but there you have it.
But then can you tell people just briefly what Green Week is?
Green Week was it was really kind of I think one of the first attempts.
We did it. We started
We did it.
at NBC, remember?
Yeah, it was to try to draw a line around can you get the entire organization behind the scenes and in front of the scenes to do certain things, to accept certain practices. Number one, it was, and you're going to have to refresh my memory on some of it, but I know we had themes on almost every show.
Right, for a week.
For a week. Every
Prime
show
time.
did some sort of theme, some sort of exhibit. It was organic. It was either a theme or just an organic thing that they got a new electric car at the early stages. They started talking about recycling. Don't throw that away, recycle. Now it's commonplace. At the time, it was a big deal.
It was consistent.
It was consistent throughout. We got some PCA messaging in between the programs, PSAs. And then we drew a line around behind the scenes of just getting us, the producers and the productions, to start walking the walk too, because again, people were polluting.
Yeah. And
really drew a line around it and said it's Green Week. What else am I forgetting?
It was honestly revolutionary, I have to say.
Yeah.
I mean,
You made the Chiron green.
Yes, the Chiron was green.
Yes.
So,
And
I
then
mean,
you took
that's-
it to 2 networks, because you then took it to Fox.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it was kind of, it was kind of great.
Yeah.
That you went one from the other. So it was the first time there was acknowledgement, and that it was just consistent for an entire week in show after show each night. So
like companies could do that. They could just say, let's just do 1 week where we all focus on some kind of message. But that's a whole nother panel.
Right.
Well, first
Okay.
you'd have to get people to actually watch television in that fashion.
Yeah.
That's
true.
But we can do it in a lot of different ways now.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to skip you because I want to save you for last,
skip me.
the best for last. So we're going to go to Bill, because Bill was an EMA board member for 20 years, and Bill has really made protecting our planet a priority. And Bill, we want to talk to you about how, we know everybody knows producing movies is hard, but how have you been able to create environmental content and environmentally green sets while staying within budget? Because I know everybody says, oh, to do things environmentally, it costs so much more money, et cetera. But maybe you can touch on that, and then some maybe like top tips
Sure.
for green sets.
I mean, the truth is, when you're making any kind of film or television story, you're creating a little city, and you have a base camp, and you have dry cleaners, and you have food preparation, and you have all these things, just like a town. So it's the same ideology as what Debbie tries to do every day with her writer meetings and showrunner meetings and all that kind of stuff. It's to say, there's 2 lanes. There's the messaging, which is why Alan Horn and Norman Lear and their families started the organization way back when, was to say, wow, we have these really powerful platforms, and like Kevin alluded to, in those days there were only 4 networks, and it was a little easier to get focus on the message. But whether it was All in the Family or whatever, there was always an opportunity to get the messaging. More recently, you have real accessibility to alternative means of energy, power, catering, all the different services that you use when you're making anything. So if you basically, like Walmart, say, we want all our suppliers to be sustainable up and down, the line, then you can really, get everybody on the same, plane philosophically and create a green production, which is what we do every time and what most people I know try to do, whether it's, you were talking about making sure there's recycling on the set, making sure that you're using, large water bottles as opposed to plastic bottles running around. So those things all add up, because you produce a lot of waste. And when I was before I was a producer, I was a movie executive at Warner Brothers, and I started an environmental group there, and we actually got the styrofoam. I mean, there's people here not old enough to know what styrofoam is, but we got the styrofoam cups out of the commissary. We got solar into the studio, which Alan Horn then ended up, doubling down on. Wood chips were a big deal. How you actually disposed of scenery back in the day.
That's right.
And we found more sustainable ways to do that. But my favorite story about messaging, and the one that I thought it's still to date probably the most compelling, was when Dick Donner and Lawrence Schuler Donner, they were making Lethal Weapon, and there was a scene. Lethal Weapon was a big action franchise, and not just a TV show.
Right.
And Dick and Lauren and Jerry Moss, who founded A&M Records, were at the forefront of this dolphin-safe tuna movement, and which was a real issue. I mean, this was an enormous problem. How many dolphins were getting killed in the harvesting of tuna. And so literally in the middle of Lethal Weapon, Danny Glover's sitting down to watch his favorite TV show, and he's biting into a tuna sandwich, and the kids go, "Dad, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm just sitting here trying to enjoy my tuna sandwich." And like, you can't eat tuna, and literally that moment, you could see the ripples from that movie, because it was a big hit, really give more momentum to the movement, and they actually accomplished legislatively this idea of dolphin-safe tuna, which now you see on cans and things like that. So, it's not a pipe dream. You can actually affect change, and I think, Kevin, by doing it on a corporate level at these two places, impressively showed that there's a way to tie the thematic part of it to the business part of it. And, there's a guy I worked with named Dan Estey, who's a Yale professor, who wrote a book called From Green to Gold. And it's really fascinating, because the truth is he's proven many, many times in different businesses that, not only can you save money, but you do the right thing in business. And he's actually affected a lot of different companies and mutual funds and things of that nature to look at the sustainability governance of these corporations in the United States. And even Walmart, which Debbie and I have dealt with as well over the years, has done, with the flick of a switch, they can do more than anybody with that number of stores by saying we're not going to use regular light bulbs anymore, and all our fans are going to have sustainable light bulbs in them. So the message is getting out there. Unfortunately, this week, it's happy 415 parts per billion week. When we were messing around with Bill McGibbon in the days, he was saying at 350 it's over.
Right. Yeah.
So we blew by that. We've definitely over accomplished on the parts per billion. So, but anyway, I think that in terms of tips, people who are in production, any company for that matter, any office for that matter, it's just really logical stuff, and it's just practical thinking. And everything you look at, whether it's the water, it's the food, it's meatless Mondays, it's all those different things that can affect change. And, whether it's a 2-person company or a 20,000 person company, I've found people are very receptive to making those kind of changes.
But that's a good point, too, that I think on sets, they should have their craft service do one day that has no meat. Because that is because they're serving hundreds of crew members
Yes.
and cast. I think that that's something that we can start to do and ask for, because it makes such a difference, just one day. And imagine all those meals with the crew. And anyways,
Okay,
another panel.
that's our next.
That's another, you guys, we're creating panels as we speak. Okay, so I would talk forever, but we have 2 more people that we want to hear from. So Paul, who is at the Disney Nature team, as we said, and you've won a lot of Emma awards, so obviously we all know how special the movies are. But what we wanted to ask was, spreading awareness, obviously, about the planet is probably why these documentaries kind of came to be. But there was such a huge gap, right? Because we were talking about the first films that were 60 years ago, and then there's a gap. So how was it that Disney Nature and you just decided this is the time, this is what we need, this is how we need to tell these stories?
Yeah, it's really an amazing journey. If you go back to Walt's original True Life Adventures, which were really first created in 1948 to 1960 or so, he was, I don't think many people know this, he was the first one to do nature filmmaking, which kind of shocked us when we started to look at it actually and figure out, well, how much are these films tied to our own narrative? How much are these tied to our own history? What we found was Walt had this series that obviously went on to be part of Wonderful World of Disney, where a lot of my generation first started to get exposed to it, and seeing the content of wildlife on screen brought audiences in. Time passed, studio company went in different directions, moved different ways, and there was a reason that the company stopped airing this content was people weren't engaging with it the way that they were before. And so all of a sudden comes along this film, little film, March of the Penguins. And it sort of caused everybody to step back and go, wow, there's an audience for this. And that's an audience.
Warner Brothers.
It was Warner Brothers. That's exactly right. Huge hit. I mean, huge hit. And it was something that we all looked at and says, there is something here. There's an opportunity if we think about where Disney can enter this and have a Disney voice. Obviously, there are tremendous content creators out there. One of them now is a recent family member with National Geographic. But whether it's Discovery or BBC, there are lots of content creators. So we looked at it as, how do we enter this space that makes it very Disney? And we felt, well, we are a narrative company. We are storytellers first and foremost. So how do we tell the best stories we can with these films? And we found on that journey that we were actually opening a door for audiences that would not consider a nature documentary as a first choice. And audiences are not going to go check out Before the Flood if they think a nature doc isn't even in their genre of interest. But if they come in through one of our nature films that is fun, entertaining, with our recent Penguins film, an 80s soundtrack, is designed to be just fun, you're opening the door to audiences that then will engage with other content and want to learn more. And I found what's amazing over the years is the kids are the ones that are telling the parents they want to see this content. It's often the parents assuming, oh, it's a documentary, you probably don't want to see this. The parents are almost assuming they're not interested in it. And then it's the kids that are saying, we want to see this looks like a lot of fun. And that's then suddenly opens the door to parents considering other content.
Well, they're actually the first movies that I watched with my daughter because she didn't get to watch a lot of television and movies. And so I would watch those with her. And I learned more than, I mean, I couldn't believe all of the information that you would get from those movies that you had no idea was just being downloaded into your brain with like cute monkeys and dolphins. And it was fascinating. I love them so much.
We spend a lot of time as we build the narrative, and the narrative, I should be clear, is all based on actual behavior, based on what we film out there. So we're not making it up, we're not manufacturing anything, we're not manipulating the animals. It is what our camera crews will film over 3 or 4 years of filming. They'll capture the stories. Our crews will tell us what they witnessed and filmed out there, and then we'll craft the most compelling narrative off of what was filmed. And we work hard to get this data and facts into what's happening to either the animal or the region or the planet in a way, so it comes across not as a sort of an off-ramp that is jarring, but it's very much contextual to the story at that point.
Well, and speaking of narrative films, Jonathan, so I first want to say congratulations because Participant Media was named one of Fast Company's 2019 Most Innovative Companies, which is a big deal. And, of course, you got an Oscar. But I just think it's... No, because we were saying outside before we came in here that it's like, I think it's great that there's companies recognizing companies that are doing innovative things. It's a lot going on in the world right now. But anyways, So, and then you got the Oscar, right, for Green Book. I mean, I didn't see it, but I'm assuming from the posters that it was about two guys on a road trip trying to save the environment.
Planting gardens.
Right? Planting gardens.
Spreading the message of sustainability.
Exactly. So now, because Participant is all about cause-related content, why do you think the medium of narrative film in particular is so effective in raising awareness?
Well, and the challenge in making sort of issue-based movies and television is getting people to care about the issue. And in order to do that, it has to be wrapped in some sort of emotional engagement, right? Otherwise, it's a lecture. You know, and lectures have their place, but that's not why people go to the movies or turn on the television. And so we always ask ourselves, is this, what is it about? What is the sort of issue we're trying to make this thing about? And is it going to make me laugh? Is it going to make me cry? Or is it going to scare the hell out of me in some way? And if it's not going to do any of those, is it really a movie? You know, but one thing we were talking about backstage is like some issues actually lend themselves to that kind of storytelling more than others. Unfortunately, like for instance, we made this movie several years ago for Warner Brothers called Contagion. And it's about virus pandemic spreading around the world. That actually lends itself.
Which scared the shit out of me.
Exactly.
That movie.
That was the goal, I believe.
That was the goal, because it is a scary thing, and our with our partners, with Steven and Soderbergh and Scott Burns and the producers, and Jeff Skoll, who founded our company, it was like people weren't paying attention to this problem, and it's not like an if this will ever happen, it's a when this is going to happen. But how do you get people to pay attention? And that's an issue that lends itself to that kind of 2-hour format as a narrative feature film, because it is scary and it's immediate. Whereas we've struggled over the years, how do you make a great narrative film about climate change, for instance, which is, it's picking up speed, but it has been a slow motion disaster, and it's hard to get people to be scared about something that they can put off being scared about, without messing with the science so much that you're making something that's just not credible, because that's something you have to watch out for as well. So it's all about, and I think this is true of documentaries too, because you were talking about it. It's all about engaging audiences in why you should care, and that's about emotional engagement. Early in the company's life, we made a documentary called Inconvenient Truth, and there's a lot of information in that. It's based on his slideshow, but the things that people remember are, Al walking through the airport with, pulling his own carry-on bag, because that's like a really emotional thing, and it makes you connect into the story because he cares so much, and that's what he's dedicated his life to doing. Or the polar bear on the, ice floe. It's an emotional engagement that then draws audiences in, and then they'll absorb the information. And whether it's a documentary or a narrative, it's really about making sure audiences emotionally engage with it, and therefore care about whatever the issue is at the heart of it.
Well, I think it's amazing that all of you guys are doing what you can with everything that you have. So we applaud you for that, and you're leading the way, and that's amazing. That's the best you could do, and it's working. And then there's the lovely Debbie Levin. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm good.
Are you stressed out?
I'm so not stressed out.
Okay, good.
Because I'm here. So I was stressed out last week.
Well, look, we all know that Debbie is the CEO of EMA, and it's because of you that that all of this is happening. The summit, the messaging, you have done this, and I just want everybody to just give a little round of hands to Debbie for us all coming together. And then I want you to just let everybody know why it is that EMA has become such an important part of this puzzle of bringing all these people together so that we can get out there like your little minions and spread the word.
First of all, I really know how to pick friends. I really know how to pick friends. And I think that story is everything. It's always been about storytelling. I think that the world is really, really scary, and there's a lot of frustration out there. But I think that being authentic and hopeful and solution-oriented and inclusive and really kind of speaking to and asking a million favors from people that you love in this room and on this couch and chair. But I think that helps, and I think it's community, and I think that we have become a really powerful community, and our voices are so big. As we've heard, we're almost 500,000 followers on social with just the board, and so we can be so loud and we can be so immediate, and I think that with the help of, as you've heard on the stage, the entertainment industry is with you. They've always been with you. 20 years ago, when we were all knocking at people's doors, I remember meeting everybody, and it was like, no, I get it. I want to do stuff. And there's never that no. It's just like, how do we make this work? How do we make it financially work, budget work, story work? And at the end of the day, these are compelling stories. And I think it is 100% our job to do it, and we're the ones who are doing it. There's no one else who knows how to do this. So, but again, it goes back to finding your right community. And does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you've done. Look at us. We're all even we're all in blues. It's all
we coordinate our.
We all coordinated too. Well, I mean, unless anybody else has anything to say, look, we have a giant times up red sign over there.
It's time's up. That's kind of.
It's time's up. Hashtag time's up. But I would talk to you guys for days and hours and whatever. Maybe we'll just have.
I have a few questions I'd like to ask, but
I know.
I'll do it backstage.
That's right. We'll do it
The
backstage.
main thing is everybody is here because everybody wants to be here and tell the story, and
Right.
we're so appreciative of that.
And we wanted to represent you guys to show that it is possible to make an impact.
And these are the good
Right.
guys.
And these are the good guys.
Yeah.
That's right. All right.
Great.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks, guys. Whatever.